Hey, it's Luke from LT Gaming, and it's Steam Summer Sale time, which means it's time to dig through the galaxy and find some proper space games worth picking up. And this time we're not just talking about pure space sims, we've got grand strategy, colony survival, tactical fleet combat, and weird feudal sci-fi empires for you to enjoy. So if this sounds like your kind of financially questionable space adventure, hit the like button. We really appreciate it, and it helps stop the channel from drifting off into the space void. Let's get into it. IXION, 65% off, €11.89. This is a brilliant one to consider if you like your space games with pressure, atmosphere, and a proper sense of doom hanging over every decision. IXION puts you in charge of a prototype space station carrying what's left of humanity. I mean, no pressure there then. And the whole game is about keeping that fragile ark alive while also earning the trust of the people on board. What really makes it work is that it's kind of a city building game tied directly into a story set in space. I mean, there we go, such a cool concept. Every new system you enter feels dangerous, every shortage matters, and this is a very tough game, I will say, but it's a standout if you want something different and challenging. Solar Expanse, 20% off, €14.39. An interesting one because it takes the space game fantasy and pulls it back closer to realistic near-future exploration. Instead of instantly jumping into galactic empires, you're planning rocket missions across a moving solar system, using probes and telescopes to find valuable resources, mining asteroids, building permanent bases, and slowly turning moons and planets into places humanity can actually use. Sounds pretty cool to me. The long climb from fragile space company to interplanetary civilization gives it a very different flavour from the usual sci-fi space sandbox. Elite Dangerous, 75% off, €4.99. This is still one of the purest cockpit-first space sims around, dropping you into a one-to-one scale Milky Way where trading, bounty hunting, mining, exploration, smuggling, and faction play all sit inside the same connected sandbox. What makes it stand out is the sheer sense of scale and immersion. It really is just absolutely epic, and many players in our Discord think it's the best space sim of all. I tend to lean a little bit more on X4 Foundations, but I do understand if you're a real simmer, this is the one. 2026 is still a good year to get into Elite Dangerous. There's lots of new ships on the way, updates coming all the time, and they haven't given up support on this one. If you don't own Elite, just buy it and give it a try. Endless Space 2, 75% off, €9.99. This is one of the easiest Space 4X games to recommend because it understands that building a galaxy-spanning empire should feel stylish, mysterious, and a little bit weird. Every faction here has its own identity, from corporate empires and ancient machines to stranger civilizations with different ways of expanding, so your campaign never feels the same way. Add in beautiful presentation, strong sci-fi writing, hero characters, and some really brilliant music, and Endless Space 2 remains a fantastic sale pickup for anyone who wants their strategy games to have proper atmosphere as well as depth. Starpoint Gemini Warlords, 85% off, €4.79. This one sits in a really nice middle ground between space sim, action RPG, and lighter 4X sandbox, letting you directly command capital ships while also building war fleets, expanding your territory, and upgrading your headquarters while you push against rival factions across the Gemini system. What makes it stand out is that balance between personal ship combat and bigger picture control, so it gives you that hands-on space combat feel while layering in fleet warfare, the empire growth, and a much more Warlord-style progression loop, and this was just a really fun game when I played it back in the day. I wanted to include it this time around because it does get left off a few of our sales lists from time to time, and it's a game I'm actually genuinely curious to jump back into in 2026 myself, so I might do that, and I think you should also. House of the Dying Sun, 70% off, €5.99. This one's a much more focused, combat-heavy space sim, putting you in the cockpit of the Empire's deadliest interceptor, while also letting you command a wider fleet from a tactical overview. It's one of the most underappreciated space sim gems out there, and yeah, it sits a little bit on the shorter side, but I wish they'd turn this into a full empire-building sandbox experience. It would have been brilliant. If anyone can track this developer down and we can give him some money, perhaps he could do that. What makes it stand out is that blend of classic space shooter intensity and light strategy, with fast dogfights thrown in and fleet orders. This game simply just deserves your attention in 2026, and if you want to experience spaceflight in VR, this is still one of the funnest virtual reality games I've ever played. Arvoch Alliance SE, 20% off, €15.60. This one is for players who miss that older, more demanding style of space combat sim. Rather than being a simple arcade shooter, Arvoch Alliance SE puts you in proper cockpit-driven missions, where you're managing shields, energy, heat, countermeasures, squadron commands, ship loadouts, and Newtonian-style movement that lets you drift, strafe, and flip through fights. This one's definitely more niche and sim-heavy, but that's also why it works as a Steam sale pickup, because if you want space combat with a bit more bite, this still offers a flavour you don't see nearly enough today. Interstellar Space Genesis, 67% off, €9.23. This is a really solid pick if you want a more classic turn-based 4X that still has its own personality. Interstellar Space Genesis is about building up a galactic empire through exploration, colonization, diplomacy, research, and tactical turn-based fleet combat. But what helps it stand out is how it tries to capture that just one more turn Master of Orion feel without drowning you in unnecessary micromanagement. It's an absolute favourite of LT gamers, and I know there's a couple of fans in our Discord, including our moderator, who really rate this game. Space Engine, 40% off, €17.39. It's less of a traditional game and more of a science-based universe simulator, letting you explore a one-to-one scale cosmos filled with galaxies, nebula, stars, planets, black holes, and procedural worlds. But it's so worth it. What a satisfying game or educational tool this is. I don't really care how you classify it, it's just brilliant. It stands out for that sheer sense of scale and realism, with seamless travel, time control, Newtonian flight, and a fully functional planetarium mode built around real astronomical data. I've had so much unbelievable fun in this title. I mean, you can fly a starship around as well, so it is kind of a space sim, let's call it that. But if you want to learn and educate yourself about space, this is the ultimate experience and you need to pick it up in the sale. Battlegroup VR2, 20% off, €19.60. If you're looking for a VR-only, real-time space strategy game that puts you on the bridge of your flagship, then you've got to pick this title up. You'll be leading fleets, exploring, mining, doing a bit of fighting across the galaxy, and all of it in virtual reality, so you should be very immersed. It stands out because that mix of fleet command and of course that first-person VR immersion I've just talked about, giving you the feel of directing battles from the captain's chair rather than some distant strategy map. It is clearly a more niche recommendation than the broader flat screen space sims on this list, but if you want something that genuinely leans into the fantasy of commanding a war fleet in VR, this is a strong one to keep an eye on. Space Haven, 40% off, €14.99. A really lovely pick for anyone who wants space survival to feel personal rather than abstract. Space Haven has you building your ship tile by tile and trying to keep a civilian crew alive as they search for a new home. But the clever part is how every design choice feeds back into the drama on board. Bad room layouts, poor oxygen control, uncomfortable living spaces, fires, hull breaches, alien boarding actions, it's all here. And it's all trying to turn your neat little starship into a complete disaster. For this price, what's not to love here? Just a quick interlude to say most of you who watch the channel are not subscribed. So make sure to go down below and hit that subscribe button because it helps smaller channels like us grow really quickly, and both me and Tom really appreciate it. Polaris Sector, 80% off, €7.79. This is a strong one to consider if you want a Space 4X that feels a bit harsher and more tactical than the usual clean Empire builder. This is also a bit of an underdog, this title. It's had a good comeback recently. You're expanding through a dangerous sector where rivals, pirates, and unknown threats can punish you quickly, so the fun comes from balancing diplomacy, research, and exploring your surroundings. There's also a pretty cool ship design in this one where you can have multi-layer ships, found that really cool. I also especially like that battles can be handled directly in tactical mode, so your custom ships are not just numbers on a spreadsheet. This is an older one that was brought to my attention again recently, and I think for the sale money it's worth considering, especially if you're a game collector like myself and want to try every space game. Space Engineers 2, 20% off, €20.39. This game leans hard into the engineering sandbox fantasy, giving you a fully destructible world where you can build ships, stations, and planetary bases, while the current alpha already includes creative tools, survival systems, colonization mechanics, and 2 planets to explore. What makes it stand out is the building side of the experience here, with its unified grid system, projection and backpack building, mod support, and that classic design it, test it, break it, and rebuild it better loop. Space engineering fans just absolutely love this game. Now, it's definitely a tougher one for me to get my head around, but I do love it, and I love the updates that they're doing all the time. The early access of this game started very bare bones. I was concerned, but I'm really happy with the progress it's making, and you should definitely pick it up if you want a project to enjoy along the way. Starcom Unknown Space, 50% off, €12.25. This is a top-down space action RPG built around exploration, shipbuilding, and a mystery-filled open universe with alien factions, artifacts, and strange worlds to uncover. Look, if you like your space sims 2D and you can't get Star Sector on Steam, this is the one. It stands out for how nicely it blends adventure and customization, letting you turn a small scout ship into something far more powerful through research, new modules, and different ship builds. It's still a really easy sell list recommendation in 26 because it already feels like a polished, content-rich space adventure rather than just an interesting idea. Like I said, 2D space sim, go and pick this one up if that tickles your fancy. I just googled tickles your fancy to make sure it was an actual saying because my wife knows very well that I like to make sayings up and get them all completely wrong or say something rude by accident, so I think I'm in the clear here. Avorion, 66% off, €8.49. If you want a procedural co-op space sandbox where you build your own ships from scalable blocks, Avorion is the one. It stands out because it has that truly great blend of custom shipbuilding, destructible space battles, fleet growth, factories, multiplayer, and just about everything. It provides the ultimate creative freedom and empire building depth in a space sim. I think it tends to be a little bit forgotten in 26, to be honest. I don't see a lot of content out there on it anymore, and it truly is a real great of the genre if you can get into it and get past some of the initial tutorials. There's definitely a bit of a learning curve, but it is an absolutely massive game once you get going. I think they did some expansion packs also, so check those out. If you like the idea of building your own ships while slowly growing from a nobody on the edge of the galaxy to something much bigger, hang on, it's like the LT Gaming story. I have to slip that joke in somewhere. Well, if you actually do enjoy all of that, Avorion still has a really strong appeal. Distant Worlds 2, 65% off, €17.14. This is where the list goes properly grand strategy, because Distant Worlds 2 is built around running a huge living galaxy rather than just pushing fleets around a map. The clever part in this one is the automation. You can let the AI handle parts of your empire, like civilian ships, exploration, construction, or military control, where you focus on the bits you actually enjoy. That also makes the sheer scale much easier to get into. There's been a few DLC for this one, and overall it's just a really ambitious, big space sandbox game that ticks a lot of boxes. So pick this one up if you're looking for a Space 4X that feels busy, alive, and genuinely massive in 2026. Spacefleet Heatdeath, 15% off, €10.02. An exciting one because it leans hard into the fantasy of commanding ships in a messy, grounded Earth-lunar system rather than just giving you abstract space battles. It's sorta like Expanse meets Mount and Blade in space, and it has orbital intercepts, station docking, trade contracts, bounty hunting, and fleet combat where heat, power, radiators, drives, and crew modules all genuinely matter. It feels hardcore in that sense. It is still in early access, so I'd frame it as one for players who enjoy supporting ambitious, hard sci-fi projects, and I think for the sales price it's worth jumping on board. Stellar Monarch 2, 50% off, €12.25. The appeal with this one is that it approaches space strategy from a completely different angle. You're not playing as a pilot, a fleet commander, or even a normal 4X ruler. You're playing as the emperor of a feudal space empire. That means less busy work and more big picture decisions, dealing with noble houses, appointing ministers, managing disloyal admirals, handling rebels, assassins, usurpers, and eventually facing off against asymmetric alien threats. It's a great sale pickup in 2026 because it gives you that grand sci-fi empire fantasy, but trims away a lot of the late game micromanagement that can make other space strategy games drag. Void Destroyer 2, 52% off, €3.93. This is a scrappier, more systems-driven space sandbox that lets you start off in a basic ship and gradually opens up into everything else. What makes it stand out is that mix of cockpit action and strategy, because this is not just about flying one ship well, it's about clawing your way up from small-time jobs to controlling fleets, bases, and territory in a rough asteroid belt frontier. A lot of bigger space games look flashier, but Void Destroyer 2 has that classic indie sandbox appeal, where you can feel the progression from nothing to something much bigger. For what it's worth, it has a very positive Steam rating, which to be honest these days I don't put too much heed in, so I don't talk about them that much, but this game really does deserve it. And if you like your space sims a little bit nicher with a bit more grit, freedom, and that old school build yourself up energy, this is still a very easy one to throw onto a sales list. Star Trek Voyager Across the Unknown, 25% off, €26.24. This one is especially interesting because it's not just leaning on the Star Trek name. It's actually built around the Voyager fantasy of trying to get a damaged ship and crew home from the Delta Quadrant. The hook here is that you're making the choices that Janeway never made, like killing Neelix every single time. I mean, you have to do it. You'll also be managing morale and resources, deciding how far to push risky research like board technology, and sending crew into ship combat or away missions where their individual skills matter. It has that nice what-if angle for Star Trek fans, and I actually really enjoyed my time with it over 35 hours. It's a little bit lightweight in some areas, like visually, but overall pretty cool. Star Dynasties, 75% off, €7.49. An awesome pick if you like the idea of Crusader Kings in space, but with a lighter, more focused strategy layer. Star Dynasties is less about designing ships or painting the galaxy with fleets, and more about surviving the politics of a feudal sci-fi society after Earth has been destroyed. You are managing vassals, arranging marriages, protecting your bloodline, dealing with reputation, and trying to keep your dynasty alive across generations. It's very niche, but it is one of my all-time favourite games. I've always had a soft spot for this, so you can't say bad things about it. Its mix of space opera, politics, family drama, and emergent storytelling make it a really easy recommendation. No Man's Sky, 60% off, €23.59. This has grown into one of the biggest all-round space sandbox games ever. It blends base building, exploration, survival, trading, multiplayer, and seamless planet-to-space travel inside its huge procedurally generated universe. And what makes it stand out is how much variety it packs into that loop. Whether you want to chart strange worlds, build out a home base, run missions with friends, or just drift through space chasing that next weird discovery, it really is a dream space game. I have over 100 hours in this just recently between my Nintendo Switch and PC using cross-save. It's a really great function. It means I can play No Man's Sky on the move, and then I can load it up onto my computer, record some footage. It's absolutely brilliant and definitely a game I want to dive deeper into on LT Gaming. It earns a solid place on a 2026 sales list because it feels like one of the most feature-rich and complete space games you can buy. Evochron Legacy SE, 20% off, €19.60. This is one of those space sims that earns its place by being properly hands-on. Evochron Legacy SE is all about freeform flying, trading, mining, combat exploration, station building, crew management, ship design, and even seamless planetary descents. But the real hook is how much of it is controlled directly from the cockpit rather than buried in endless menus. You've got Newtonian-style flight in this one, war zones, multiplayer, co-op, and a universe you can genuinely carve your own path through. It's a little old school, but it's one of my favourite space sims this year. It looks beautiful even though it runs on virtually anything, and there's a great set of Star Trek mods that absolutely transform this one. It's a real hidden gem. X4 Foundations, 80% off, €9.99. This is one of the best picks here if you want your space sim to grow into a full empire builder, starting you off in a single ship before opening out into trading, station construction, and fleet command, all sitting within a living simulated universe. What makes X4 stand out apart from just about everything, and we won't mention the UI because people do complain about that, but it's a sense of scale and control. With so many flyable ships, modular station building, shifting faction economies, it's like a living universe that you're just a part of. It's simply brilliant. And in 2026, that mix still feels pretty special. A lot of space games let you fly through a big sandbox, but X4 also lets you shape it. When you're building factories, managing logistics, and steering the wider balance of power around you, you do appreciate what a brilliant game this is. It's a super easy sale list recommendation for me, and make sure to check out the latest Empire update. We did a comprehensive video on that, so definitely give it a watch. It's one of my favourite and most played games of all time, so I'm just gonna go thumbs up here. Oh, and I almost forgot, you can play the Star Wars Interworlds mod, which is just a cherry on top if you love X4. You'll need the main game plus all the main DLC, and then you can play one of the best Star Wars games ever made. Emperor of the Fading Suns, 20% off, €7.80. Everyone needs to own this game, to be honest. It's an ambitious strategy classic that modern Space 4X games still don't quite replace. You're guiding one of 5 royal houses through a crumbling feudal sci-fi universe, but the fun is in how messy that actually gets. You've got planetary politics, a church always trying to influence things, diplomacy, noble rivalry, and wars that can spill across land, sea, air, and space. The enhanced edition also makes it much easier to recommend because this is a cult classic that has been modernized for Steam while still keeping the weird, political, deeply old school flavor. You should buy this one, basically.